Think of all the questions that bombard us on a daily basis. Did I get picked for a leadership position on my mission? Did I score more points than my rival in the basketball game? Did I get the highest score on the test in my class? Was I the one student from BYU who landed the internship? Did I play more flawlessly in my audition than did everyone else? Did my witty comment in Sunday school make more people laugh than my roommate's comment did? If I glance over the treadmill next to mine, will I find that I'm running at a faster pace? And on and on and on. These constantly nipping questions are all about me, and it's exhausting. Doesn't it sound freeing and liberating to think less about ourselves, to not be thinking about ourselves at all? This is Jesus choosing to be a guest at a publican's house without worrying about the way that his reputation might be harmed in the eyes of murmurers. This is Jesus, immune to the criticisms of people who, if they had lived in today's world, would be making the same sniping judgments in the comment sections of social media posts. This is Jesus, sincerely, wholeheartedly deflecting praise and glorifying his Father. And on and on and on. I'm so grateful that the gospel writers were honest enough, even in some cases honest enough about themselves, to include passages that show that Jesus' apostles struggled with this. They even squabbled over this. When they asked who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven, perhaps the champion of all comparison-motivated questions, Jesus called a little child unto him and said, "Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is greatest in the kingdom of heaven." We remember that one of the ways that King Benjamin recommended that we overcome our natural man/natural woman state is to become as a little child. An image that is as vivid today in my mind as it was when it happened a dozen years ago is a backyard game of catch with my two oldest boys, Parley and Marshall. Parley was 5 or 6 years old. Marshall was probably 2 or 3. I would throw the football to each of them in turn. Parley was catching the football almost every time. Marshall, not so much. I can see Marshall concentrating, watching the ball, and then missing it every time. But here's the thing I'll never forget. Marshall cheered, jumped up and down, squealed in delight every time Parley caught it. I could still hear his little voice yelling, "Good catch, Par," or "That was great, Par," and then he would miss the next throw that came to him. But somehow, that didn't dampen his enthusiasm for Parley's success. Somehow, he knew that his contest was not with Parley. He could have joy in Parley's success. So how do we do it? How do we recapture that sense of childlike celebration for the good fortune of others? I think we do that by thinking less about ourselves. Here's how C.S. Lewis said this. Do not imagine that if you meet a really humble man, he will be what most people call humble nowadays. He will not be a person who is always telling you that, of course, he is nobody. Probably all you will think about him is that he seemed a cheerful, intelligent chap who took a real interest in what you said to him. He will not be thinking about humility. He will not be thinking about himself at all. There's no question that you and I are going to fail at many things we attempt to do. And in the eyes of those making comparisons, we are all repeatedly going to fall short. There is always a bigger fish, so to speak. You're going to get emails or voicemails or text messages, maybe even this very day, notifying you that someone else was hired for a job, that someone else was picked for the team, that someone is not interested in a second date, that someone else has been called as Relief Society president, etc., etc. But do not take that as a mark of your worth. Disappointments do sting, but they can also be wonderfully, albeit painfully, formative. All things really can work together for the good of them that love God. But do not let the temptation to compare give these disappointments destructive power. These comparisons are counterfeits. They cannot adequately measure what really matters. Korihor asserted that, quote, every man prospered according to his genius and that every man conquered according to his strength, unquote. That assertion is simply not true. And when we're honest with ourselves, we know it's not true. What I mean is that no one can legitimately say in the ultimate sense, I prospered because of my genius or I conquered because of my strength. We know that in reality, so many variables are involved. Where we are born, when we are born, our race, our gender, the schools available to us, the education level of our parents, genetic markers like height and muscle mass, the timing of our application and the pool of applicants for a program or a job. So many things that are out of our control. All of these factors impact the degree to which we even have the opportunity to prosper or conquer. There have been many geniuses who have not had equal opportunity to prosper, and many strong men and women who have not had equal opportunity to conquer. And for that matter, what does prospering or conquering even definitively look like? Prejudice is real. Injustice is real. Remember that Korihor was anti-Christ, and the demonstrably false statement that we prosper according to our genius seems to be another way of denying that we need Christ or need anyone. When disappointments hit, we take a deep breath. We remember what really matters. The Lord will not ask about our professions, only our integrity. He will not ask for our resume of church callings, only our interest in ministering to others. These are the things that really matter. C.S. Lewis once proposed that we might think that God wanted simply obedience to a set of rules, whereas he really wants people of a particular sort.